Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera show. You know, it's that time of year we're all getting ready for the holidays. And needless to say, because I love to cook and I love having my family over, Thanksgiving is my absolute favorite. So you know, we all have our favorites. We've got the dressing that our grandmother always made. We've got the sweet potato casserole that our aunt always brought. But today I thought, you know, I want you to try a few new things, maybe at least adopt one new recipe for your Thanksgiving buffet. So we've got 3 great recipes today. We're gonna start with the little rosemary and honey biscuit that is just delicious. It goes really well with turkey and ham. So I want you to add that to your buffet. Then a mushroom casserole. You know, all of the other vegetables are represented at Thanksgiving, but the mushroom just seems to not have a place. Well, we've got a great recipe that I think you'll really love. And then finally, you know, we have all the traditional Thanksgiving desserts, but have you ever tried to do a pumpkin roll? This recipe is so delicious, makes a gorgeous presentation. So speaking of presentation, we're gonna do the wow factor today, and I'm gonna take Thanksgiving out of my dining room into the backyard. So I'm gonna give you some ideas there as well. So I'm ready to get started on those biscuits. All right, this recipe goes way back to the days of catering, and you know, our company is 40 years old this year. So these are the little honey and rosemary biscuits that are just so flavorful. We love to use it with turkey and ham if we were stuffing them for a buffet. So we start with the flour in the bowl, and you want to use fresh rosemary for this. So just buy it in the produce department of the fresh market or your grocery store, and you want to make sure that you cut it so that it's kind of fine. Now we've cubed the butter, and it's nice and cold. You take it out of the refrigerator right before you're ready to do this. And you know, back in the day, my mother would have put her fingers in there and she would have mixed it all together and got it really fine. But now we use a pastry blender. And so this is a good thing to maybe do with your young person that really wants to get in the kitchen with you and learn about cooking. This really is a great place to start. Anything like a biscuit or a muffin, you know, a cupcake, anything like that is a great first recipe with a young person. What we're trying to accomplish here is a really coarse, where you don't see big chunks of butter anymore. So every now and then you'll want to scrape this until you've got it just right, and we're almost there. All right, so I'm gonna get my mixer started. I've got the cream cheese in the mixer and get that kind of smooth. And this is the Fresh Market's honey. We love it. It's really flavorful. It's got a really pretty golden color to it. So once that's incorporated, I'm going to pull this up so I can add in all of my flour. So I'm going to find a good spot there to get that added in. And you know, if you've got your young person working with you on this, you could use a small measuring cup and let them put it in one little bit at a time. All right, so we're gonna spin this back around, and all we're trying to do is get a nice moist dough. All right, look how nicely this dough turned out. And it's sticky, it's a sticky dough. So I've got my little miniature 12 muffin pan right here, and I'm gonna use 2 spoons. And I'm gonna grab a heaping spoonful, and then you just pull it off with the other one. And you don't even have to grease the pan. So that's awesome. And I'll finish filling these during the break, but I want to give you a tip about also making these into biscuits. All right, so I'm going to flour my board. And the nice thing about this dough is that it's easy to work with. You don't even have to use a rolling pin. So I'll start with about that much, and you just want to easily toss it around in that flour. And then I'm just going to pat it down, and you're looking for about 1/4 of an inch thickness. Now take your biscuit cutter and put it down in the flour, and look how easily that just pops right out. So you can either do the muffins or you can make the little miniature biscuits. All right, so I've got my oven preheated to 375. These are gonna bake for about 14 to 16 minutes, and I'll get the rest of this filled up. And when we come back, we'll get started on the mushroom casserole. Welcome back, everybody, and if you're just joining me, I'm giving you some new tips for Thanksgiving. You know, we all have our favorites. We have those recipes that it wouldn't be Thanksgiving without, but I want you to introduce one new recipe this year. So those rosemary and honey biscuits came out of the oven, and honestly, I had to wipe the crumbs off my mouth because they just pop right in your mouth. They're so moist. The reason you don't have to spray the pan is because there's so much butter in the batter. All right, so we're getting started on a mushroom casserole that I've been making for years. This is like an early 80s recipe. It came directly from Mary Beth Busby's cookbook. She was the first lady of the state of Georgia, late 70s, early 80s, and she wrote a cookbook. And it's been one of my favorites for years, and this recipe actually came from that book. So we started with cleaning some of our vegetables. And you know, this is when the grandmother in me realizes that I've got to get up to speed with what's new and interesting about food preparation. And you know, back in the day, we used to just take an apple and just eat it. You didn't even run it under the water. Well, a lot of things have changed since then. And this veggie wash, I cannot tell you the difference it makes in vegetables and fruits that you cook with. Even today, when I was spraying it on the bell pepper and then wiped it down really well for about 30 seconds, then ran it under the water, the difference in the skin of that bell pepper after I did that was amazing. And when you think about the number of people that have had their hands on the produce before you've even purchased it, and that wax coating, whatever is on their hands is going to stick to that. And you know, there is no aftertaste to this. It really makes a difference. It opens up the vegetables so it can take in all the other flavors in your recipe. So I highly recommend it. So this is a mushroom casserole, and believe it or not, that is the only vegetable that you do not use this product on because it does absorb. So I always just take a towel and I just wipe whatever dirt might be on that mushroom off and get it ready to go. So we had some butter in a skillet. We sauteed the mushrooms, and again, when I made this originally, I would take the stems off, but there's so much flavor in the stem. So here again, we're learning things as time goes on. So I've sprayed my pan, I've got it ready to go. I also cubed my bread. This is just sliced white bread. You take the crust off, just stack it up and take a knife and cut it into squares. So to the sauteed mushrooms, I'm gonna add my real sweet onions, my clean as a whistle celery, and the same thing with the bell pepper. So like I said, mushroom is the one vegetable that seems to be missing on the Thanksgiving table. All right, this is my Hellmann's mayonnaise, and I really love to use Hellmann's when I'm baking because it doesn't have quite as much oil as some of the other brands of mayonnaise. And then salt and pepper. All right, so let's mix this together. And you know, another thing that kind of brings newness to recipes is we used to cook vegetables to death. And you know, you can saute these mushrooms, but you don't have to saute them until they're really, really soft. You know, I really like to taste some of the texture of the vegetable. All right, so that's good. Now I'm gonna add half of these breadcrumbs, bread cubes. I'm going to add this mixture to the casserole dish. I just honestly, I cannot wait for y'all to try that. And you know, when you do try these recipes, and they're on our website at VeryVera.com, we would love comments. We would love to know what you think and how your recipe turned out. All right, so now I've got eggs and milk. I'm going to mix that together and blend it. And the beauty of this in terms of Thanksgiving is you make this the night before and you pop this in the refrigerator and then you finish it the next morning or right before you serve. So we're gonna just pour this over the top. And all that bread just soaks up all this goodness. Gonna add the rest of the bread. And then this goes in the refrigerator, but don't worry, I'm gonna pull out the one that I made yesterday. All right, so this came out of the refrigerator, the one that I made yesterday. And this, you know you've got an 80s recipe when it calls for a can of Campbell's soup. And this calls for cream of mushroom. So you're just gonna, just dab it on the top and then kind of move it around. And this is gonna go into a 350-degree oven for 40 minutes. Then you take it out and you cover it with the cheese that you've grated and is ready to go on top. Put it back in for 10 more minutes and it'll be good to go. All right, so when we come back from the break, we're gonna get started on that pumpkin roll, and I cannot wait to see this when it's finished. Welcome back, everybody, and that mushroom casserole smells amazing. I cannot wait for y'all to try that. And so the last two recipes that we've done have both come out of one or the other of my cookbooks. But this recipe is not in the cookbook. It should be, it is amazing, but it just gives me an opportunity to remind you that if you're looking for a recipe, one of the first places you should look is VeryVera.com. All of our show recipes for the last 12 years are on that website. So it's a great resource for a recipe if you're looking for something new and different. All right, so this is the pumpkin roll, and I had a little bit that I had to do in advance to get this ready. All right, so we started with mixing flour, sugar, and baking soda, and the pumpkin pie spice just in a glass bowl, mix that together. And then I mixed in the pumpkin puree, my fresh market eggs, and lemon juice. Once I've got that completely incorporated, I'm using a 15 by 10 inch sheet pan. I poured the mixture right in the center and spread it evenly in the pan. Then I'm going to bake it at 375 degrees for about 12 to 14 minutes. You just want to watch it because you've never made anything like this before, and that's always a good idea. All right, so then I laid my tea towel on the counter and I sprinkled it very well with confectioner's sugar. And then once that was done, once the pumpkin roll was done, I took it immediately out of the oven and I flipped it on top of that confectioner's sugar. And then you just start at the long end and you're just gonna roll it up and sit it on a cooling rack so it cools for just a little bit so you can do the rest of the recipe. So that's where I am right now with that. So now I'm gonna do the filling. I've got my cream cheese in my mixer. I'm going to get that going. And putting these ingredients out on the counter and getting them at room temperature really helps the process quite a bit. So my butter and my cream cheese were both at room temperature. All right, now I'm going to add in my vanilla. And this is my Fresh Market, really good vanilla extract. All right, and now my confectioner's sugar. So I'm going to turn this down just a little bit and start adding that. And this is just a really great cream cheese filling that you might want to use for like icing for sweet rolls or whatever you may be making, that this would incorporate well during the holidays. So sometimes there are parts of recipes that you can use for other things. And this is definitely one of them. All right, let's turn that up, get it all incorporated. It just takes just really briefly to do. All right, then I'm going to get this out of the bowl. All right, so this is ready to go. I'm just going to smooth it together just for a minute. All right, now let's unveil the roll. And these are the kinds of things you see it and you think, oh, I could never do that. But then you challenge yourself, or you watch the VeryVera show and I show you how to do it. So that's exactly what's going on here. All right, so now we're going to take all of this filling, put it right in the center. And this could be something really different for your Thanksgiving table. And when we come to the end today and you see the way we present all of this, hopefully I'm going to give you some ideas there as well. All right, so I'm going to spread this all the way to the edges. And then for me, it's just like the difference. Some people like their cinnamon rolls, just the filling and the icing. But some people like pecans in their cinnamon rolls. And so I decided, and my friends at Pearson Farm decided that we needed to put some pecans in this recipe. So I'm going to add that to this pumpkin roll, but you can do it with or without. And I could see probably the majority of my grandchildren helping me do this. And it's that time of year where they're out of school. That could be something really fun to do. All right, so I'm going to add my pecans. And you want to just have these chopped so that you know there's a pecan in there, but it doesn't interrupt with how you slice it or anything else. And then we're going to back up little by little, and you're just pulling it away from the tea towel as you go. And then this is going to go on a beautiful platter and cuts into little circles. We'll put some more confectioner's sugar on it. All right, so I'm going to get this on my pretty platter, and when we come back from the break, we're going into the backyard this year for Thanksgiving. I think you'll enjoy that as well. Welcome back, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving. You know, I'm really going out on a limb here because I have never done Thanksgiving anywhere other than my dining room. And to be outside in the backyard, I am just thoroughly enjoying myself. So let's talk back through what we did today. We had 3 great recipes. All of these I hope you'll try. They're on our website at VeryVera.com. So we started with the little rosemary and honey biscuits. And I showed you 2 different ways to do it. You can do it as a muffin, which really looks great in a bread basket, or you could do it as a biscuit. And after the fact, bake extra because you're going to have some leftover ham and leftover turkey that you can stuff into that biscuit, maybe for the next morning for a brunch. Then we did the mushroom casserole, and this is where I introduced you to Veggie Wash. You know, I told you I'm back in the age where all you did was pick it up and eat it or slice it or whatever. And so Veggie Wash is a great way to make sure that you've got the wax off of the vegetables, that all the dirt and any pesticides that were used in the fields is off of it, and it's good to go. But this recipe is very unusual. It's going to bake almost like a souffle because it sat overnight with the eggs and milk that is going to fluff it up when it bakes. I think you'll really enjoy it. And then the pumpkin roll. It is so beautiful on the tray. You can serve it whole. You can go ahead and slice it. It's just a beautiful dessert, and it's also very tasty. If you wanted to do anything additionally to that, butter pecan ice cream would be good with that. But you know, if you're running out of time and you've got all these dishes you've got to prepare, just remember that the fresh market is your friend. Whether it's the pumpkin roll that they make this time of year or any of your side dishes, they're ready and available to help you make sure that family gathering is exactly what you were hoping it would be. All right, so let's talk about what else is on the buffet. We've got a deep fried turkey that turned out beautifully. We have a homemade dressing. Of course, you know, your grandmother's might be better than mine. We did some gravy. We've got green beans, macaroni and cheese. So the buffet is just really beautiful. So now let's talk about the seating. And this is my favorite part. You know, I always say my favorite part of entertaining is setting the table. And certainly that was accomplished today. So Replacements Limited came to the rescue again. And actually, this brown quail china is my everyday pattern from back in 1975. So they helped me get some pieces. Some of mine were chipped or cracked, and I've got it all looking really sharp today. The tortoiseshell glasses really add a lot, as well as the silverware that we use to go with this. And we're going to give you all of this information on our social media. Just go there and we'll have a design board so you know the pattern and if you want to order. So I certainly want you to do that. And then we've got some great ideas for gifting. You know, this time of year we're all thinking, gosh, you know, what am I going to send Aunt Jane? And what am I going to send my best friend from college? So Cold Creek Nurseries in Aiken has some great ideas. You know, many of you know that they've been helping me with my backyard. But they've got this website where you can get some amazing boxes to send out as gifts during the holidays. So they've got a self-care that would be great maybe for someone that, has some ailments from time to time and they might not treat themselves to some of these special things. That would be a great one. Then if you've got a guy that loves to grill, there's one that has barbecue sauces and rubs. And then finally, the last one is breakfast. That's everybody's favorite meal. So anything from grits to jams to syrup, it's really loaded with everything that you need for breakfast. So keep that in mind for gift giving and go to their website and look around. They've got 8 other boxes to go with that. And as I always say on the VeryVera show, no matter what you do, do it in good taste. And I think we've certainly done that today from our buffet to our seating table. And so I certainly want to thank everybody that watches us every week. I want all of you to have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family and come back and join us next week.